What's going on, everybody? Is your boy Yancey Steele, episode 99, Mom's Basement MMA. I went up to the Great White North, and it was my distinct pleasure to talk to a really interesting guy. His name is Mike the Reaper Roe. He lives in Alberta, Canada. He's getting ready to make his amateur MMA debut. And what's so cool about Mike is, for the longest time, he went around the world participating in point fighting, in karate, taekwondo type stuff. And he did very, very well. In this episode, he talks about making this transition from being a striking based athlete to learning all of the other attributes that are necessary in order to do well in mixed martial arts. He talked about jiu-jitsu. He talked about learning how to grapple, and he's really excited to make his amateur debut at Unified Martial Arts. That is a really reputable Canadian promotion, and they stream all their fights on Fight Pass. I have no doubt that soon we'll be able to see Mike the Reaper Roe on Fight Pass as well. Always enjoy talking to the Canadian crew up north, figuring out what they got going on. I love Canadian mixed martial arts. I hope to have more Canadians on the show in the short future. Please check out this episode. Please drop my boy Mike Roe a follow. Great guy. Definitely going to be seeing him at the next level. Check it out. What's up, everybody? Episode 99, Mom's Basement MMA, and I'm talking to the King of the North, Mike the Reaper Roe. Mike, you look incredible today. I know it's like 800 million degrees below zero up where you are, but you guys are on the metric system. We're the difficult ones. I apologize for that. You're the first Canadian fighter I've had on my show, so we're holding it down, and we have love for Canada down here too, man. Welcome.
What's up? Thanks for having me on, man. Appreciate it.
It is my honor and privilege to talk to you, and I want to try to get a pulse on where you are at this point. One interesting thing, I don't have a problem calling you an old guy because I'm a lot older than you. You're 26 years old. I was just at an MMA event over the past weekend. I saw these kids that could barely shave that are getting into the octagon. These kids are 18, 19, 20 years old. You're 26 years old and you're getting ready to make your debut. A lot of people are going to be like, man, who is this guy? Who's this old dude that's going out there? Tell me, what is the gap? Where are you at in life? And like, how did all the things in your life come to a head to where we're getting ready to fight?
Oh man, this is a long time coming. This is a long time dream since I was 7 years old. I started karate when I was 6. I had my black belt in Zen karate. It's a style out of Canada here. When I was 13, traveled, did the world karate circuit in Spain, did nationals in Ottawa, worlds in Vegas, placed really well, third in Spain at worlds, first, second, and third in all my different divisions in Vegas. Really, this was a lifelong dream. I mean, obviously, one day, actually, it was my brother that showed up at the house with the UFC 1 DVDs. And we sat down. We were watching those. And at first, I was like, who the fuck would want to do that? Like, that is crazy. Mm-hmm. And, fast forward a couple more years, watching the lights of Randy Couture, Chuck Liddell, obviously George St. Pierre, fellow Canadian, the GOAT, as I. But,
I won't argue.
So, yeah, it's just been one of those things. And, it seemed like for a while, life kind of get in the way. You're finishing high school, you finish high school, got to get a job, got to figure out what I'm doing with my life, yada, yada. Actually, when I was like 21, met a girl. We dated a long time, actually was engaged until recently this summer. Bought a house together, yada, the whole life thing, right? And I actually reached out, started training a lot more again, and reached out, started working with Declan Walsh from Fight to Be Fit. He works with a lot of high-level athletes in the fight game, and started really getting my nutrition right. He now takes care of my nutrition and my strength and conditioning as well. so then I started training like 2-3 times a day. Plus, I'm a full-time heavy duty mechanic by day. And it was just, no, you know what? It was like one of those things. It was like, if I don't do this, I'm going to be 50 sitting back going, fuck.
Yeah.
And I actually had the opportunity. My dad took me to New York for UFC 205, and I got to witness the champ. And I'm probably honestly one of the biggest Conor McGregor fans. So it's like,
that's unfortunate.
So that just really, it was like, you know, from him coming from being a plumber, an apprentice plumber, you know, me as a heavy duty mechanic, it's just kind of one of those things. It's like, you know what? I don't want to pull wrenches for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I'd rather punch people in the face. That sounds like more fun.
Completely understand. And is your partner, was she like pretty like on board with you taking all the just everything that's been going on in your life? Like, that's a huge lifestyle change.
So that I came home one day, and that was, she pretty much walked out the door on me, and I was like, all right. But yeah, and no, she wasn't. And yeah, but hey, now it's like we're taking a chance on this. And I sold the house, and I actually owned a karate school in Lacombe. Just recently sold that as well. And I actually just moved back home. So it's kind of funny. I'm actually in Mama's basement right now.
Hey, all right. Hey, I knew we were going to get along. That's fantastic. And I will say this, I've gone through some things in my own life where I've been in relationships that haven't worked out. I've been married before, had a kid with a woman, didn't work out. And it was difficult. It was pretty soul crushing. And I had to it mess with me up here quite a bit. And I will tell you that I have no regrets at all, man. I don't. And everything is going to work out exactly as it is intended to. You have one door closes, 5 more open. And you're a young guy. You're only 26 years old. You got your entire life ahead of you. When I was 26 years old, holy shit, man. I barely freaking knew how to wipe my ass at 26. And here you are getting ready to go into a cage and do something that only a micro fraction of the population can do. Given your background in martial arts, I think the obvious question becomes this. You're a bad man, like striking. No, not a lot of people can hang with you. I'm sure there's probably not a lot of guys at your level that are as technical, as polished as you are. With that being said, right? What's the game plan when you go up against a freaking amazing striker? It's like, fuck this guy. We're taking him down to the ground. We're wrestling this guy. We're not letting him use his strikes. We are going to grapple fuck this guy against the cage. Strikes. Yeah. We're getting rid of that. Can you talk a little bit about the challenges of, we're in mixed martial arts now. Like, we have to know how to do jiu-jitsu. We have to know how to stuff takedowns. We have to know how to grapple. We have to know Muay Thai, a bunch of other disciplines out there that may not necessarily have been your bread and butter in the past. Was it a challenge picking all of that up?
You know, man, it's funny because it's funny because everybody around here, like, nobody's seen me fight yet. I've had some kickboxing fights, but nobody's seen me fight yet. And I've had a couple pro guys from up around here calling me out in my DMs saying, you know, oh, he's just a karate kid. Yeah, come grapple with me.
Beautiful.
Come do jiu-jitsu with me. You know, I'm sure you're on Instagram. You know the Because Jiu-Jitsu page with Drew Weatherhead. He I started out under him. He had a jiu-jitsu school here in Black Falls, and now he's traveling around down in the States, and we're under kind of that tutelage of him. And we got there's some killers up here, man. Like, good people don't realize that, you know. One of my main training partners, Leo Lion Bonin, he's 3-1 now, and he's got a big fight coming up as well. And I mean, yeah, him and I, his last 2 wins are by rear naked choke, and him and I go at it.
I love to hear that, because it's always like one of the things, it's interesting. It's mixed martial arts. So there's always going to be, you're never going to be like perfect at everything. And if you are,
No,
you're like GSP. You're like a one in a million type guy that's just
no,
perfect at
100.
everything. And that just doesn't really happen. We all have our weaknesses. With the grapplers, it's like, that's great. That you may have an advantage, assuming you can take me down, assuming you can do that. So that's why I love this game so much. It becomes a big chess match. One of the things that's
Yes.
also interesting to me is you alluded to going to Europe. You alluded to going into like these tournaments. These martial arts tournaments, I mean, they could be kind
Yeah.
of a big deal. Do you think that like gives you an advantage as you get ready to make your MMA debut here shortly? Like in terms of your nerves and in terms of like just kind of like your composure, because you fought on a big stage before. Does that kind of work to your advantage in this case?
Yeah, man. I've competed. I did point fighting as a kid, obviously, because there's no, I mean, obviously you're still growing and developing your brain and stuff like that. But I did point fighting tournaments, and I went to like every tournament that I could from the time I was able to compete to, the time that I was a black belt. I always wanted to compete against the best. That's just the competitive nature that's in me. I don't understand sometimes these guys that are, easier fights because they know that they can win. Like that's not what the sport's about. It's like the old saying, if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best. And why that's like, for instance, I'm going to name drop this, but I love that Bobby Green just stepped in against Makhachev. I love that. That is a dog move. The balls on that, man. I love that. Like,
and how could you root against Bobby given those circumstances? How could you? That guy, there are a lot of people that would run away from that fight. I think me kind of being an MMA snob that I am, I don't like the fight because it was supposed to be a title eliminator between Islam and
right.
Dariush. That doesn't happen now. For Islam, where does this how does a win over Bobby Green help his cause to getting closer to a belt? I'm not really understanding that. I don't want to see Islam and Bobby fight because if there is a suspension, now what happens? Like with Dariush, like are they going to be able to line that up still? And just because I'm a selfish bastard and I want to know because I want to know who's coming up next, that kind of like blows everything out of the water. On the other hand, holy shit, could you imagine what would happen if Bobby Green freaking knocked out Islam? Could you imagine? Holy balls, that would ruin everything.
I love it.
I love it. I love it when like we plan out things and then like you got some guy who just plays spoiler and fucks up all your plans. And that certainly could be Bobby Green. I never underestimate this guy. I'll be really curious to see what the line is on this one next week. Talk to me about March 4th. Talk to me, Mike, a little bit about your camp. Who are you fighting? Number one, do you know who you're fighting?
Yeah.
You do know. So, you have an opponent.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Talk to me about your opponent. Talk to me about your camp and preparing for this dude.
Yeah. So camp has been good. It's been a little bit of a roller coaster. I won't get too much into detail over that, but but it's been great. Basically, this was the first camp I switched over my strength and conditioning with Declan Walsh with Fight to Be Fit, and his counterpart Bree Howling, she's pro boxer, phenomenal. It's really I notice a difference, like game changer in my cardio, game changer in my overall strength. Like I went from squatting 225 to squatting 315 and I trap bar deadlift over 410. Videos are on my Instagram. So
so you can lift like that without putting on a bunch of weight?
Yeah, man. I know where I'm walking right now, and we're right in prime position to hit 45. And I bet you I could walk into obviously not going to do that, but I could walk into the gym tonight and probably go do that right now. Everybody that I grapple with, I'm the smallest guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like everybody's well over 170, 180. Obviously I start camp heavy, but of course, round into shape, drop the pounds off, whatever. Camp's been really good. Again, like I said, got to train with a bunch of killers at Central Alberta Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu out of Lacombe. Also, I've been working a lot of boxing with Declan Walsh as well, just adding another outlook, because I mean, I've always had the karate kickboxing style striking, but now adding a different look of a real technical boxing level, just really trying to round everything and really pushing. Obviously, I know that, like we said earlier, I don't know many guys at my level that are going to be able to hang with me in striking. So really pushing that takedown defense, really pushing that grappling. But hey, I also know that don't leave your neck open, protect that thing. Because
absolutely. One of the things, like when you get exposed to all these other disciplines, the wrestling, the jiu-jitsu, the Muay Thai, et cetera, sometimes you'll hear stories about like wrestlers, for example, that all of a sudden they become really good at striking. They're like, holy shit, I'm having so much fun doing this. Like, this is like a new love I've found, like with boxing. I've never really been exposed to it before. I talked to a guy that wrestled collegiately at a very high level here in the States. He wrestled at Kent State. He knew he wanted to try MMA eventually. He trains boxing, falls in love with it, gets golden gloves, which is a pretty big accomplishment here in the States at an AMI level. And he's a great boxer. Like, you wouldn't know that, like him being a grappler primarily, but he's like, dude, don't sleep on these hands, man. I have like fantastic hands too. When you're like rolling with guys on the ground, when you're doing takedowns and takedown defenses, or anything that you've been exposed to that you're like, wow, like this is fun, I really like this? Or is it one of those things where it's like, this shit is hard, I like what I like, and I'll do this when I have to, but I like where I come from, kind of thing?
And one of the biggest compliments that I can get is, actually, we had a guy come from out of town, and actually him and I had a couple of times talked about short notice fighting each other. And he's more of a wrestler guy, and him and I got to kind of go at it a little bit over the weekend. And one of the biggest compliments I get is, he's like, stood up right after the round and he's like, you're good. He's like, your grappling's good. And I'm like, for me, I'm like, that's a feather in my cap. And that just, you know, I'm not saying that, no, am I going to go out there and shoot blast doubles on guys? Probably not.
Yeah.
Maybe one day. Don't sleep on that. But no, but it's like, you know, for me, that's just, you know, these people that have this notion of thinking that, you know, that Karate Kid over here isn't grappling, or doesn't know how to defend a takedown, or doesn't know how to grapple, is just ridiculous. Like, it's mixed martial arts. You can't go into an MMA fight anymore and not know how to grapple, not know how to wrestle. Like, that just blows my mind. It's like, this is an evolved sport. This isn't UFC 1, UFC 2 anymore, where, you know, you got Hoist Gracie just going in there ripping guys' heads off, you know.
I think the game has certainly matured. It has definitely evolved. I would say you can probably be a one-dimensional fighter at a low level, but if you're going to take this seriously and try to compete on a regional scene as a professional, compete in some of those Canadian promotions that you mentioned, or coming down here and competing in like Bellator, PFL, whatever. If you aren't well-rounded, you will get found out, you will get exposed, and this game will chew you up and it'll spit you out. And then there's a place for people like that. And it's like, okay, well, you're not that great. You're not good enough to be a boxer, but you're too shitty to be MMA. Bare knuckle fighting. Here you go. Like, that's kind of terrible, but it's true. Like, look at all the people that are in bare knuckle fighting. They're all burnouts and washouts from MMA. They just couldn't hang because they'd have no ground game whatsoever. But they're too shitty to box.
Did you see? I can't remember what page it was on Instagram, but I saw a meme, and it was Chad Mendez in the UFC, and it was like a Doge, and it was like a super tame Doge, and then Chad Mendez at bare knuckle boxing, and it was like just this jacked monster Doge, and I was just like, huh, yeah.
I have to like go on a little bit of a rant. I personally don't. Hey, to each their own. I'm not a fan of bare knuckle personally. I think it's a little too circusy for my liking in terms of like the caliber of fights that we're getting. I don't think they're very high caliber. If you like striking, just watch boxing. I mean, just watch boxing. You can watch high level boxers. I don't know. That's just me. Maybe I'm a snob. It's certainly a possibility. I don't really dig it. What's your opinion on the sport of bare knuckle?
On it, but to be completely honest with you, I haven't watched enough. I see little highlights of it on Instagram. Like outside of right now, like my schedule is so crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm up at 4 a.m. doing fasted before I go to work, come home, have a snack, go lift, come home, eat supper, go train. It's like, and then it's bedtime. So, I mean, for me, I really don't get a ton of time to sit down and be like, and usually if I do get time and I want to sit down and watch something, unfortunately, I'm sitting down and I'm watching the UFC card. That's just, I mean, come on.
Hey, I completely agree. When you look at all of these like big promotions that are out there, I think you're coming up at a perfect time because there are a lot of options, not just the American-based promotions like BTC. I know about them. I know that they're a very reputable promotion. The Canadian MMA scene doesn't get the attention that it deserves. And if you're paying attention, and if you look and see at all the promotions that are out there, there's some really good ones. I don't get it. I always try to like expand my horizons and see what's out there. And I came away very impressed with the caliber of promotions that you guys have up there. Do you aspire to get to like hang in with one of those promotions for a while before is that like the goal to fight for one of those promotions?
So like right now I'm set to debut with Unified.
Okay.
Unified, also on the card coming up, has Shane Campbell, Kyle Properlek, as well as I think the fight just got canceled, but Simon Marcus was supposed to fight on the card. That's a big name. And I mean, if you don't know who Simon Marcus is, you probably should, especially if you're in the love of the fight game. He's one of the few guys that's handed Israel Adesanya a loss. But yeah, I was supposed to be they were all supposed to be on the card. And I mean, they've treated me very well as an amateur trying to make my debut. They've been really awesome. And so I'm really excited. I've also had the opportunity to be around when one of my teammates fought. Yeah, he fought December 17th and got another win. So it was kind of, to be around the way they are with their fighters and stuff like that. And I think they're one of the top promotions in Canada. And I probably would be, I mean, obviously opportunities come up other places and things like that. And sometimes, you just got to take a chance on opportunities that you can't pass up. But I mean, I like that it's close to home. Don't think that I won't hop in that plane for that right opportunity, because I will.
Absolutely. As well as you should. Another fun fact for the people here in America that may not know about it is I think Unified's one of them. There's one other. These promotions are thought very highly of, and they're going to be available on UFC Fight Pass. Definitely check that out if you have Fight Pass. I think that is an indictment that the powers that be are looking at the caliber of talent that's up there and like, okay, these guys aren't messing around.
The only issue I have with this is the Fight Pass starts with the pros.
Yeah.
Right? Which is fine. Fair.
Well, it's like that down here too for the American promotions. Like, the Amis, typically, if you want to watch the Amis go, you have to stream it on the promotion's YouTube channel or like on their Facebook page. Typically, that's how it works. And I will be keeping an eye out for you, my friend. I definitely want to see your fight. I hope there's a streaming option. There should be. Tell me a little bit about this dude that you're fighting. Do you know much about him? Is he making his debut as well? Or is this just kind of one of those situations where you don't really know a whole lot about him because he's in the same place as you are, both making your debut? What is it that you know about him, and how did this bout materialize?
The guy that I'm fighting, his name is Robert Noble. He's out of Athabasca, Alberta. He's 1-1, coming off a loss in 2019. So it's been 3 years. I mean, obviously, with everything in the world, it's been a struggle. I don't know a whole lot, and I was unable to really find any of the footage from the fights, but I've actually, one of my teammates trains with the last guy that he fought that beat him, and was able to kind of just little tidbits here and there, but nothing really much. I'm really relying a lot on my ability to adapt and my fight IQ. I really believe with the level of experience that I have with point fighting and being able to adapt and read things real quickly, and having to read body language and things right off the bat. Like, I mean, you don't get a chance. That guy touches you, it's a point. So that's where I feel like that's very underrated when it comes to transitioning into full contact fighting. I mean, look at the likes of Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. GSP comes from a karate background. I mean, I think that that's so underrated, and I think that I make it very hard for people to fight me, because I'm not going to stand there and slug with you. I'm not going to, I'm going to intelligently pick my spots. I'm going to make it hard for you to deal with me. I'm going to control the distance. I'm going to be in and out. And, and the beautiful thing about karate is my instructor instilled from us right off the bat was, you do not have a good leg and a bad leg. You want me to go southpaw? Okay.
Right.
You want me to go orthodox? No problem.
It's definitely going to be something to see. I think your biggest advantage is experience, is going back into your background. I know it doesn't all directly translate. The game is a little bit different, but you do have the experience. You do know what it feels like to be in a back room, in a locker room, waiting for your turn to fight in front of a few hundred people. Like, you've done that. And those pre-fight anxiety stuff, that's a real thing. A lot of people get hit really hard with it. But you've done this before. Like, for you, it's just going to be a different setting. Not to say you won't be maybe a little bit nervous, but I think you're going to get in there, the cage is going to shut, and it's just going to be another fight for you.
Yeah, like I feel like anybody who says that they don't get nervous, it's like, okay.
Yeah.
I think, like, even just a hair, like come on. Just a hair.
I think that comes down to the fragile male ego and fighters. Fighters sometimes have very fragile egos, and I understand why. Because every fucking idiot on the world is doing this, right? And like, oh, you fucking suck. And it's somebody who's never even been in an MMA gym before that's telling you that, by the way. It's a toxic place, and you have to have a thick layer of skin, and you have to be like strong mentally. And I think some people take it a little too far, where it's like they kick it up a notch, where it's like, yes, I understand that you need to have a thick layer of skin, you need to be tough mentally, but like, you also need to be open to constructive criticism. And just because you lose a fight or you didn't do something well, that doesn't mean you're a piece of shit. It doesn't mean you're a bad fighter. Just, it is what it is. Take it for the face value and move on. And some fighters, they can't really handle that. I think there's a little bit of immaturity there sometimes. And it's like, if you're not like buying every single thing that I'm selling, that means you're a hater, and fuck all the haters. And it's like, dude, nobody's saying that. So I kind of like, at times I've told some of the fighters, like, dude, it's okay. You can tell me you're nervous. Like, I don't think any less of you. I don't interpret that as you telling me you're afraid to go out there and fight, because I know you're not. Like, it's just anxiety. We all have it. We all deal with it. And it's okay to say that.
Yeah. And it's funny, because it's like, I read a thing the other day that said, to be an elite level athlete, I believe you have to have a short-term memory loss. And it's like, you know what? In a sense, I was like, it is very true, because it's like, you know what? So what? You lost. Get back on the horse, look at what you did wrong, fix it, learn from it, move on. I would rather take a loss. I would rather take a loss early in my career than get to the height of my career and take the most important loss when you're, whether it be looking at a title, whatever. And it's like, oh, I could have fixed this so long ago, but now it's being exposed at the biggest stage, at the pinnacle of my career. I would rather take that loss earlier on and sit back and be like, okay, now let's fix this.
Yeah, absolutely. And a fighter told me this, so don't think it's, oh, this Tyler guy's a freaking genius, because I'm not. It's just I'm literally plagiarizing what I'm about to say from a different fighter I had on. As soon as it clicks into this rusty brain of mine, I'll tell you who the fighter was that told me this. But to paraphrase him, he's a professional, and this is what he tells AMIs that are in his gym. He always starts off with this: who is the number one pound for pound amateur fighter in the United States? Guess what? Nobody fucking knows. You could apply that to Canada too. Who is the best pound for pound amateur fighter in Canada in mixed martial arts? The amount of people that know that answer is the number one guy and maybe a couple buddies in his gym. Nobody else cares. Nobody gives a shit. So it's like, you know what? If you're going to take an L, take it as an AMI, because guess what? Whether you're 0-10 or 10-0, it doesn't matter. As soon as you go pro, that switch flips, and we're back to 0-0, baby. Like, this is the time where, yes, you're out there to get experience, but like, if you're doing it right, you're taking the absolute toughest fights you can right now, because it's free practice.
Yep, that's right.
And it sounds like, Mike, that you're really approaching this the right way. You have this like energy about you. You have this like sense of like maturity and confidence about you, and that's rare for a guy that's making his MMA debut, because oftentimes I'm talking to kids that are 19, 20 years old. They're barely shaving. You got a nice beard going on, so I know you're not barely shaving. You look good today, man.
Man, this is short, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's actually kind of crazy, because in the past I used to have this like really big beard, and I'd travel down to Vegas. I always come. I'm actually planning on coming down to Vegas for International Fight Week again. But and people actually holler at me, and they're like, "Hey, look, it's Conor McGregor! It's Conor McGregor!" Like, I couple of family members said once upon a time, "Hey, you kind of do look like Conor in a way," and I was like, "What?" And then like go out to like the bars and stuff, and people are like, "Hey, it's Conor McGregor," and I'm like, "What?"
Well, you know what? I think you're too cool to be Conor McGregor. You're not strung out. You're not like beating up old men in pubs or whatnot. So I think the future looks bright for you. Mike, I want to give you kind of the last word before we wrap up, because I know there are a lot of people that are supporting you and making a lot of things happen behind the scenes to make sure that you're ready to go on March 4th. So if you'd like to shout out anybody at your gym or any of the folks that are supporting you, I'd like you to have that opportunity.
Yeah, that's huge. That could be a long list, but I'll keep it short. Firstly, obviously, my number one supporters, my family. Of course, my mom and dad totally behind me on that the whole way. My brother, his wife, my niece and nephew. Of course, all the guys at my gym at Central Alberta BJJ. Of course, Leo Bonin, he's fighting May 6th for Unified in Calgary. If you guys haven't checked him out, check him out. Also, Recovery Lab. They've been huge, allowing me access to the cryotherapy, the sauna, the Normatex. Also, another big shout out to Knockout Canada. They sponsor me. They're fantastic. And yeah, and all the guys that have come in and give me rounds and give me work the entire time. And of course, Declan and Bree Howling at Fight to Be Fit. They're phenomenal, great people. Declan works with some of the best, Errol Spence Jr. and some of those boys. And yeah, I got nothing for love for all those guys that have supported me and helped me through this camp. And we'll be there for the next one as well.
Beautiful. And you know what? I just started following some of those people. So some random idiot whose mom's basement MMA. I wonder what people think when they when I show that I started following somebody. I think I'd be like, who the fuck is this guy? And it makes me laugh. Right? It really does. It makes me laugh. I have a really good sense of humor. And you know what's even funnier is I don't know, I have merchandise, and one of the fighters that was on the show, he has a shirt of mine, and he's in a photo with Henry Cejudo, and it's got Mom's Basement MMA on it. I'm just like, he's talking to the GOAT, and my ridiculous name for my ridiculous show is on he's wearing my drip, and I think it's freaking hilarious. I really do.
That's awesome.
So, Mike, absolute pleasure having you on the show, man. And I'm looking forward to doing it again. And hey, good luck here in another week, man. Make me proud. Bring back a scalp for me.
Of course, man. We don't take scalps. We take souls.
Oh, okay. That's even fucking more twisted and sinister, but we'll go with it.